Are you wanting your money to start working harder for you? In this video, we're going to be talking about equity and exactly how you can use equity to buy another property. Investing shouldn't be hard, so I'm going to do my best in this video to break it down in simple terms and help you understand how you can use equity to buy another property. So we're going to have a scenario. You're going to have one property, which you're going to buy for $400,000, and you're going to go to a bank and obtain debt against that property of $320,000. Now, this could be your first investment, or this could be your own principal place of residence. But in this scenario, we've basically gone to the bank, taken out an 80% LVR, loan to value ratio, used $80,000 of our cash, and bought our very first property. This is an important step in using equity, is you've actually got to save cash initially and buy your first property before you can see capital growth occur and then use equity down the track. So we've got our base scenario. So how do we go from here to redrawing equity to leverage our wealth? So we go back to the bank at, say, a later period of time. It could have been 2 years, it could have been 3, 5 years. You might have done a renovation on your property or lifted it up off the ground and built in underneath. Whatever you've done, you've got to have added value to the property, or it has to have had capital growth. So in this scenario, we bought the house for $400,000 and now we're going to revalue it at $500,000. The way this is done is by going to your bank or your broker and asking for a bank valuation. They'll send a valuer out to your property within 2 to 3 weeks, and they'll give you a report back to your broker or your bank saying what they think the property is worth. An important note here is that different valuers will come up with different valuations. So you're not necessarily going to get the same valuation from each broker or bank, but as long as you get a valuation that allows you to take the next step that's higher than your original purchase price, you can move forward. Now you've got the higher valuation up to the $500,000 price point, we can then look to use bank debt to access some cash. So you can see that we've got $320,000 of bank debt. That was our original loan with the bank. And we can go back to our bank and ask for a top-up loan. You could also refinance the entire debt with a different bank. It's totally up to you. At the end of the day, we end up with $400,000 of debt attached to our property valued at $500,000 now, and we end up with $80,000 cash. The reason is the new debt is $400,000 and they've paid out the old debt of $320,000 if you've gone with a new bank. Or if you've just taken a top-up loan, the bank will have increased your debt by $80,000 and given you $80,000 of cash. So this is great. We now have $80,000 of cash, which we can then use to buy another property. So we want to buy house number 2 and we want to buy it for $500,000. So we can take out this cash out refinance from loan 1 above, and that gives us 80 grand. And we can also contribute, say, $20,000 of cash savings. In total, that adds up to $100,000. We can then go back to the same bank or a different bank and ask for debt against our new investment purchase. And they might give us an 80% loan to value ratio, which is $400,000 of debt. So that allows us to buy house number 2. Now I'm going to go through this one more time to let it sink in, and then I'm going to talk about how you can snowball this as your property portfolio grows. So essentially what we're doing at a high level is increasing the value of our initial property, taking out more debt, which essentially gives us some cash to go and buy another property. We don't have to do this with the same broker or the same bank. Sometimes it's easier to. For example, in my personal situation with Emily and I, we initially worked with Commonwealth Bank. So they're the biggest bank here in Australia. And we used top-up loans rather than completely refinancing to access cash for new deposits to go and buy other investment properties. Now, exactly how can this snowball over time? You can see here the hardest part was initially saving our first $80,000 of cash to buy that first property. But once we bought that first property and it had grown in value, or we'd added value to it, we were then able to pull cash out of that deal and go push that cash into another investment property. As you can imagine, if you have multiple properties, which are all growing in value over time, or you're able to manufacture value by doing renovations on each of those deals, then you're going to create a more disparity between the market value, so the bank valuation of the property, and the debt that you've got sitting against that property. You can then leverage it and go and draw that equity to take out cash and buy other investment properties. I know that might sound like a whole heap of jargon, but essentially you're growing your asset value, you're taking out more debt against that asset value and then buying other properties with that debt. So that's exactly how people build 5, 10, $15 million portfolios. They start with one property, they see the value appreciate, they pull out equity and buy another and keep the flywheel going. That's why it is a snowball, because it's smallest to begin with, and as the ball gets rolling, it grows over time. Hopefully that wasn't too much to take in, but you can always rewind and watch it again if you want to go through and follow the example numbers. Make sure you drop a like on this video if you found the information useful. Head over to purposeproperty.com.au if you're looking for a Brisbane buyer's agent. You can have a free chat with myself. And thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.